Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, November 30th, 2022.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and I didn't have to check my calendar.
And that's Joe Yerdon.
Hi. I wasn't sure I was next or not.
That's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, it throws us all off when Russ is not.
Yeah, I'll do it. That's Kevin Allen.
Yeah.
I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, and only Mike has to introduce himself every day. It's all good. So, Russ will be here in a little bit. It's not that we didn't ever appreciate it. We just have a lot to talk about. We've got Joe here today, which is great. And I was, before the show started, I was getting ripped on my jersey choice. And as I was telling these guys 3 years ago, I think maybe even before the pandemic, I was given a gift card by a group of friends for my birthday, and for like $250 for the NHL store. And I said I was going to wait till one of these jerseys came around that really blew my socks off. And this one is the first one that I thought, after all these years, blew my socks off. I think this is a very cool jersey, and Mike does not agree.
Well, no, okay. I have to say, and we can go around the horn here. I have to say, with these reverse retro jerseys or these alternate jerseys, I'm either all in or I absolutely hate it. And like last night, I was watching Tampa Bay Boston, and Boston had the bear emblem with the Bruins with the claws on the shoulder. I think that's hideous. I think it's terrible. But I love the Minnesota Wild, the North Stars jersey. I love the San Jose Sharks one. I love the LA Kings with the throwback with the crown. I mean, they're really good. Joe, I absolutely despise the decapitated goat's head with the Adelphia Regis red, white, and black colors. But they have to do something for a throwback jersey, so that's what they did.
Well, the red and black ones are not the reverse retros. Those are just straight throwbacks.
Oh, those are straight alternates. Okay.
They'll have those for another couple of years. The white version, though, that's white with royal blue and gold. I don't know. It's a style that a lot of fans have been screaming to get back somehow.
Yeah.
And I think they just wanted the red and black ones. I don't think they wanted a white one or a blue and gold version of that. Well, maybe a solid blue one might be interesting, but yeah, I got no problem with these. And Mike, you kind of tipped your hand. Every one that you liked was a throwback to a 70s or early 80s jersey.
Well, yeah, I'm an old fart, but okay, I'm not a throwback to the 1920s, Kevin, and that Detroit Cougars jersey that the Red Wings wore. Now, the one they wore at the Big House when they played the Leafs in 2014 at the University of Michigan, I liked those.
Yeah.
This one, the red and black.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't, when I was 12, maybe I could find the passion for
I knew you were going to say that. I knew
the jerseys, but I really just can't get all.
I know.
I will say this, I've obviously am down and have talked to the Red Wings, and the players like it. I think we would sense if they didn't like it, because I think they wouldn't be willing to talk about it, but they have talked about it. And the way I view these jerseys is like, the Red Wings are only wearing theirs 6 times, like they're not looking for an alternative jersey, but this is just part of the shtick now and they have to do it. I find most of them, I just don't care one way or the other. I do like some of them. I mean, you brought up one before that I think we all like was the Sharks jersey. And, I like the Florida jersey. I do. I thought, I wouldn't be inclined to go for the more gaudier jerseys. I like kind of the, ones that are just kind of historic and everything. But I, for some reason, liked that Panthers as soon as I saw it. So
me too. And the thing I talked to Florida about, I talked to somebody there about what I thought the retro jersey should be a couple years ago, and I don't know if this. I'm not saying I had anything to do with it. When we discussed it, I said, one of the things that would be kind of cool would be to get the Miami Dolphins colors in there somehow, because they are, honestly, I think they're cool colors. I mean,
they are cool colors, but they're the Dolphins. Like, why would you do that?
Right, no, but that color is, they're one of the cooler. I thought, why not use just use the Miami Dolphins colors for Florida Panthers jersey? I thought would be kind of cool. I like when cities use the same colors. I like
the jersey you have, so I have no issue whatsoever.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the only one that I think it's sort of a new style that I actually like is that glow in the dark Dallas Stars jersey with the really bright green That's I don't have a problem with that. But
Vegas is legitimately glows in the dark. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Well, the Vegas the gold helmets, and when LA does the silver helmets, please. I mean, just
when they have the lights off and the Vegas Golden Knights come on the ice with the glow in the dark jerseys, that's pretty darn cool.
It's very cool.
I think it looks really awesome. I mean, that's like it adds to the whole lure of that of a team that already has.
I will say it like this.
Weird.
What Vegas and the Kings are doing is okay with me because they're not original six franchises. If there was an original six franchise looking like that, then I would have a problem.
Okay, can we?
That's where I draw the line.
One last thing on this, and then we'll get into this. But one last thing on this: the Sharks, as much as I like, and was a proponent and feel like I was robbed because I came up with this Seals Sharks years ago. I think that they did not pick the right color scheme for that thing. Like I think that the best Seals color scheme was green jerseys with the yellow letters on it, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
And they went going for the white jerseys, which were not the greatest Seals jersey. I mean, so I think they were so close. Obviously they could still go there, but they probably will because eventually every possible jersey is going to be used. We keep doing a new jersey every year.
You got to wear the white skates. They should have gone with the white skates.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been perfect.
That would have been very cool. And if the Flyers actually wanted to go with the Cooperalls, I was told, but weren't allowed to.
Yeah, there's
not in a game. They can do it in the warm.
Right, they can't use them in a game.
Because I'm a big fan of the Cooperall thing, but that was during the streak year, and there are still people I have friends of mine who are like anti-Flyers fans in New York and say it wasn't.
I heard, and I don't know if this is true, that it's some sort of injury risk why they can't wear those.
Because if you're wearing the Cooperalls, if you're wearing normal pants, the stocking, the normal equipment. If you fall on the ice. If you fall on the ice, there's resistance, and and the players slow down. The material that the Cooperall, if you fall down on the ice, you will keep going at fairly decent speed into the ball.
Okay.
So that's the reason.
I was told it was because of the solid black aspect of them, and that messed with goalies.
So the Cooperalls kind of act like buffet pants. I get it.
The yoga pants.
Man, how old are you, Russ? Buffet pants.
We have to start with this, and as Kevin just illustrated, I'm going to go off on my usual psychotic rant because I have no life and nothing else, and that's what I do. The Arizona situation. The vote yesterday by the Tempe City Council was 7-0. Now it goes to a referendum on May the 16th. Okay. Gary Bettman and Bill Daley go there. They say, we'll promise you a draft. We'll promise you a 30-year binding, non-moving lease. Okay. What I'd like to know is, and I think this is likely, but this is just my prediction, when the city of Tempe, when the voters vote this down, will that be the end of it? And Kev, I'll say no, because Gary Bettman seems intent, no matter what, to keep that team in Arizona, even though I don't think it belongs in Arizona.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I do think that the other option they now have, unless I'm not up to date on what's transpired, but with the NBA team being sold, there's now kind of a thought that the new owner would be might be willing. And one of the issues that they had is that the NBA team didn't want the NHL team there. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens, because that's a decent option. Like they were pretty a popular team when they were downtown. So it's going to be interesting. Now Tempe location is I'm told, not that I'm an expert on Arizona geography, but I'm told that that's where the fans are, is in that general area. So this could be better. But I agree with you. I don't think this is done by a long shot. And I also agree, I think there's a real good chance this is going to be defeated, because right now, arenas, stadiums, etc., they're not very popular with voters. So
I can give you the biggest reason why I think it will be defeated. The Coyotes are going to pay for everything that has to do with the arena, but they're not going to pay for the land remediation. And this is being built on a dump. And so the quote of it is $70 million. But, after speaking to some people that I know who know environmental items really well, you don't really know how much it's going to cost until you get in it. And based on the fact that it's on a city dump, or whatever, county dump, whatever, they might find things, and that could become very expensive. And so that's where I think the issue lies. That and the airport and the airplanes flying over people's houses.
Joe, I know
those two things.
I know because I know people who live in that area. Most of the fans are on the east side of Phoenix, in Scottsdale and Tempe. So that is the plus in this situation. But the minus here is there is an infrastructure in terms of a resistance to anything anything that puts additional taxes, like the Goldwater Institute and other organizations that have railed against previous deals in Arizona. So I don't think this is a fait accompli. And like I said, my question is, if the signal is sent to Bettman and Daly, no, they're not going to build a building. Maybe there's an option here, like Kevin said, with getting together with the Suns. But when with this? When is it over if they say no?
It's I think honestly, if this referendum doesn't pass, the Hail Mary they have is with the new Suns ownership. I think that's the last one. But this is why they win a 5-year deal with Mullet Arena. It buys them time. Yeah. So that way, if this gets shot down, maybe they try to run it back, do it again a year later. See if you can gin up some votes and figure it out. But you're right. The Goldwater Institute has, had a ton involved with with everything that went on in Glendale, although that had more to do with how the city of Glendale spent their money. It didn't have anything to do with getting the arena built. That was no big deal because it was just a patch of desert in Glendale. So, but as far as the city paying money to that, they were very adamantly against that. And finally, Glendale figured it out. Like, we can't just keep shoveling money at these guys. They don't do anything. So, so it's very interesting. I mean, Tempe is almost all Arizona State stuff anyways. Yeah. But the money's in Scottsdale. The fans are in Scottsdale and east side of Phoenix. So it's not over, but I think a vote down in the referendum you could start maybe pouring dirt on it, unless whoever buys the Sun says, like, yeah, we'll bring him in, we're fine. But at that point, I don't know. I find it hard to see that happen, especially after with what happened in Brooklyn. Although that was the Islanders.
The NHL is willing to add any sweetener they can in this, Joe, to make it happen. It's just they are going so far above and beyond to keep this market that they'll do just about anything they can do in their power.
I would think that. I think if they had a viable option in another big market elsewhere, I'm looking straight at Houston. If there was somebody there ready to go, ready to buy, that the moment if the referendum vote goes against them, they'd be like, all right, sorry owners, we're moving over to Arizona, or we're moving over to Houston. We got somebody there that wants to buy that will keep us with a top 10 market.
And they seem bound and determined not to go to Quebec City unless it's an Eastern Conference team. I mean,
no, that is listen. I know Quebec fans really want to have the Nordiques back. I get it. Like, they built the arena, they did the whole thing. Yeah, you're not moving the Coyotes to Quebec City. You're talking about a major U.S. city. It's a big market, and I get it. Like, maybe not a lot of people are tuning in there, but it's still millions upon millions of people.
Yeah, it's a market the size of Philadelphia. Remember, that's
right. You're not moving them to another Winnipeg. Like, you're just not, and another Winnipeg where they only speak French. Like, you're just not doing that.
Yeah, it's a top 10 U.S. TV market. Yeah. Now we have breaking news here. The Penguins just announced that Kris Letang is out indefinitely after suffering another stroke. He had a stroke in 2014. He had another stroke. He said that the report says they're not experiencing any lasting effects, and he will undergo tests over the next week. But, when you have two of them in the span of 8 years,
he did tell his teammates, like, he went in the locker room and addressed his teammates. So he's well enough to do that. But I think what they're trying to figure out is, what's the cause? And he probably wants to know for himself, is he going to be at further risk if he continues to play? That's probably the big two big questions.
Yeah. Kev, we sort of like reacted in stunned surprise last year when he had some injury issues the last couple of years. And then last year he was amongst the best defensemen in the NHL. Yeah. So, this is, if he's out for any, of course, what we're worried about is his health in general and not his ability to play. But for the Penguins, the re-signing of Letang was a centerpiece of them, sort of going with the same group to have one last kick at the can. If he's out any significant period of time, or if he's out period, that I think that hope is shot.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's just remove him from his profession and just think about what we would think if one of our friends had a second stroke, especially at that age. Like, you would be very, very concerned, and you would figure, okay, there's going to have to be some serious changes in his life. And, his life happens to be hockey. Like I'm certainly not going to speculate about what his future is in the game, but I think it's we're all going to be concerned about that because I mean that's just scary news, and it seemed like we're beyond that. I mean, 8 years is a long time. That's so you would think, okay, he has moved bad. That was isolated. That was a one-off. But now it's happened the second time, and like Mike said, and that's certain. It's easy to suggest right now, like I'm sure all the emphasis is, okay, what can we do to prevent a third one? So
yeah, and I mean, geez, him and you got a family, and you've had this happen twice, and you've already made enough money to live several lifetimes, with your family, and it seems like there really doesn't seem to be much upside to continuing. That's who. Let's hope.
I mean, he'll see a litany of doctors. He'll probably have to see 4 or 5 different ones because he's going to get a lot of different opinions on something like this, I'm sure.
Well, and he's going to see the absolute best and the experts in that field. So that's the good news. But I mean, this is just it's hard to even come to grips with this.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's stunning, and of course, like Joe, you want to be more focused on his health, but I mean, taking that, separating from that, just looking at the Penguins. You've got an aging but still great Sidney Crosby. You've got an aging but still great Evgeny Malkin. You've got an infrastructure there. They've surrounded them with Carter and Raquel and Gensel and Rust. I mean, the pieces are there, but really, if Letang is out and you look at that defense, they traded Marino. They have Jeff Petrie and Marcus Peterson. I mean, their defense is not good enough without Letang. And I've always been questioning their goaltending. I mean, this is if they lose him for any significant period of time, or if it's, if he's done for his career, and we hope that that's not the case, they're really in trouble.
Oh, yeah, they're absolutely in trouble. I mean, Letang's played very well. I mean, he was outstanding last season. He was playing very well this year. So losing a guy like that is just, you just can't. That's not something that they can easily patch over. He's not a depth player. He's the main guy on their defense. So if you're calling up Ty Smith, or you're calling up Mark Friedman, or Taylor Fordune, like any of these guys, like you're not going to replace that production, that ability in those minutes. Like that's just not going to happen. So it's a tough shot for them. Absolutely. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, obviously we want Letang to just be healthy, stay safe. But as far as the hockey side of it goes, it's very tough because you're asking, Chad Ruedel to jump into that spot for, basically every game. And, Chad's a nice player, but he's not Kris Letang. Nobody on that team's Kris Letang.
I mean, look, the one thing we talked about, Joe, when they got Petrie was he can assume that role for a little while, and then they can look at the deadline. They'll have money to spend. I mean, you could have Petrie do that role for a little while. Ty Smith, there's worse guys to bring up just to temporarily put the plug on it until they can make a deal, and they'll make a deal.
Petrie can be a power play quarterback. He can still.
He can, yeah.
There's a second layer to this too, though, and that is, you lose his talent, you lose his impact about what he does on the ice, and the second thing is the psychology of all this. Like, not a guy going out with an ACL.
Right.
This is a very serious, and this Letang is a popular guy at that room.
Very, very popular.
All the three of those guys. There's a lot of respect for them as people, and I just, especially the up and down season that the Penguins have had, and a lot of it has been down. Now all of a sudden you're going to take out such a popular leader figure. This is really going to be difficult for them to handle.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a rallying cry sometimes. We've seen that. They, as someone put in chat room pointed out, did win a Stanley Cup one season. He was hurt. They did pull together and do that. It is possible, of course. But like you say, if he returns, I mean, even when he returns, it's nerve wracking. It's kind of psychologically messed up, and they're gonna have to have so many people tell him that that's gonna happen again, and no one can say that obviously because it has happened again. So
he'll make the ultimate decision. It's like everything else. It's his life. He's going to make the ultimate decision, but he's going to have a lot of different people telling him different things for sure.
No, I watched a few games last night, and we have to start with this because there was no bigger miscalculation that I think a lot of us made at the beginning of the season than saying that the Boston Bruins were going to, be the team that Detroit or Ottawa caught in the Atlantic Division, Joe.
I didn't say that, so don't.
I know you didn't. I said some of us.
Okay.
Me. I know. I said I expected them to decline a little bit. And Joe, they're 13-0 at home. They're I think 19-3 overall. They beat Tampa Bay convincingly. It was 3-1. I mean, everything has fallen into place. They got all their injured players back. Krejci looks like he's gone to the fountain of youth. Like Nick Foligno is playing good. I mean, it's unbelievable. Is this all Jim Montgomery? Is this all getting rid of Bruce Cassidy?
I mean, it's partially Montgomery because I think Cassidy's exit got David Krejci back in the lineup. I think that's probably a big part of that. But
and Patrice Bergeron there
and motivated Pasternak.
Yeah, and Pasternak's in a contract year too.
Yeah,
so
that too.
Don't lose sight of that one. But it's I mean, Jimmy Montgomery, his brand of hockey is very tough defensively. He takes advantage of his offensive players in that they can go and score, but they will buckle it down very hard. And
really good point, Joe. I mean, he feels like a Bruins coach now that he's there. He feels like he's always been there. Like he feels like when he was in Dallas, he didn't feel like a Dallas Stars coach, but he feels like a Bruins coach.
I mean, the one thing I could add is, watching him a lot in college, he's as offensive as Cassidy is, but he does still rely on defense too. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Kevin, I ask you this though: isn't there a risk here? I mean, like. They're obviously playing. They're riding away from promotion. They're riding the freedom of the chains being off from Cassidy for sure. They are riding Krejci's return. They are, and you're sure Pasternak's, but it's like this is a long NHL season, and there's some older players. Like some of the, I wonder about that a little bit. Like you get it's on here,
Well, I mean, I think clearly there's a honeymoon period with Montgomery, but I think a lot of these players have been waiting for something like this, where as it's been stated here. Montgomery isn't one way or the other. He's both. And there's a lot of players that are, more than willing to play a defensive style, but they want to be able to utilize their skills. Like you don't want to always constantly think about defense. And I think that's the big difference with this team this year is, they're creative and they're still got that Boston culture of prevent. You look at the teams giving up the fewest scoring chances last year. Boston was number one in that category, and they're still up there now. And there's been a lot of shakeup in that list, but the Bruins are still up there. They're still denying chances. And and again, you mentioned this, but when you start looking at some of the best bargains this year in terms of production, Krejci's up there. I mean, Parisi's up there too, and there's been some others, but at $1 million. Like, wow, that's he's playing a big level. So.
I would be as skeptical as you seem to be about them in terms of the long season. But I looked up. Bergeron is averaging 18 minutes a game. Krejci 17 minutes. So it's not like they're playing him 23, 24 minutes a night. So I don't think there's less of a chance of burnout there. Plus, they seem to be giving some of their lower defensemen like Connor Clifton. They're playing them big minutes, and
he's making $900,000. I was going to say he might be the biggest bargain.
Right,
Clifton's been playing well.
And they seem to be they seem to be going back to the Bruins era of Claude Julien, who did play his third and fourth lines a lot. Zaka's getting significant ice time. They're getting really big contributions out of Taylor Hall, Joe, and that's the thing. If you get the Taylor Hall production of New Jersey or when he was in Arizona, okay. If it was the Buffalo Taylor Hall, forget it. He's playing better.
Buffalo Taylor Hall is a
that's another.
Listen, that's a. We want to talk for 5 hours about how messed up things were in Buffalo. We can. That's one of the chapters, but that Taylor Hall has not come back around ever since he left town. But I mean, listen, the guys are getting older. I mean, it's crazy to say that with Hall and Sagan and those guys, and you start seeing the production maybe slip a little bit with some of them. But I mean, Hall scores twice against Tampa last night, so
yeah.
He's still got it. I mean, he's got 12 goals now. He's doing fine. And that's the thing. Like you can take guys out of bad situations and then suddenly they look like God. And it's very easy to look better when you come out of at the time that Buffalo situation where they were losing 18 in a row.
And look,
Paul was like, how am I going to sign with anybody after the season if I'm playing with this team?
And I think they won the trade with Zacha. Eric Haula for them was not going to be that big of a deal, and he's not really that big of a deal for the Devils. But adding Zacha for them is a big deal because they've been searching for years for a power forward type that could put some points up, and he's doing that.
They won that trade. I really do. I mean,
no, I don't think so. I think Boston got the benefit.
In New Jersey, Zacha wasn't this Zacha. He
could have been. That's the point.
We always thought he could be, but he wasn't. He never was. Like, we watched how many times I've sat with you in the press box and talked about Pavel Zacha at length. We've sat there and it's like this is like he just wasn't ever becoming what he had to become.
Lindy Ruff talked about it when the Leafs played against New Jersey last week. Haula is playing third line center behind Heishier and behind Hughes. It's the perfect fit for them. He's a good face-off guy. He's good defensively. But Zacha, they weren't going to pay him. And I agree with Russ. Zacha is the better of the player. And he probably will help out the Bruins more than Hall would have. But it was beneficial to both teams. So I think they got the better of the deal because they got the better player. But it was a good deal for both of them.
So far, but I would keep an eye on Haula catching up a little bit. Like he does a lot. Like he is a heck of a player, and has a heck of a playoff thing with him too. I think there's certain things that you really want to see with him, like for sure.
Now I would be lying to say if I stayed up to watch this game, but I did watch the highlights in 6 minutes. And I don't think I've seen more goals in a 6-minute highlight package than I saw of the Seattle Kraken LA Kings game, which ended 9-8 in overtime. Joe, I was going to say, Joe, Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson should have sued for non-support.
I mean, listen, it's tough for me to give a lot of benefit of the doubt to Cal Peterson. He's had just a brutal last 2 years. That's very tough for me to do. Listen, sometimes you're going to get weird games like that during the season. Where just nothing's going right. Nobody's doing anything the right way except put the puck in the net. Something like that's fun because you literally don't know who's going to come out on top. You're just kind of like, all right, whatever. Last goal wins, and easy when that happens in overtime where literally the last goal is going to win it. But I mean, I can't even remember the last time a game's gone 8-8 to overtime. It has to be sometime in the 80s, isn't it? Like,
Jeff Merritt. Well, no, the last time a team won a game giving up 8 goals and the goaltender staying in for all 8. This is courtesy of Jeff Merrick. The Calgary Flames in 1991. Mike Vernon stayed in a game. He won 10-8. I can't even remember. I think it was Quebec that they played.
Well, at least he got the win. I mean, you wouldn't think the guy could get a win. The one thing I did see about this game, and I didn't watch it either, and I tweeted getting old sucks because a lot of us were complaining that we missed it. But we missed it because it was on late. Like sometimes I watch a late game. But the big thing on this one was the chances in the slot were up 38% compared to NHL average in this game. So for anybody that says this is the kind of hockey that they want, you really don't.
I mean, Kevin, that came between Detroit and Toronto last year, which I think ended up 10-7. I mean, there was a reason why Detroit scored 7 goals. The name is Peter Mrazek. And I can't remember, was it Nedeljkovic who was in goal for that one?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that game, I feel personally responsible because I ended up writing a story, talking about the Kraken. That's how I know about the where everybody is in terms of giving up dangerous scoring chances, because the Kraken were one of the team that they were in the top 3, like they weren't giving up anything, and I wrote about that, and I wrote about Martin Jones finally having a save percentage over 900, which he hasn't had in forever. I talked about, what a great signing Burakovsky's been, and
that still held true because he got the game winner.
Yeah, no, I know, but I wrote about all this stuff and how great the Ron Francis looks now in the second year, and then that game happened.
There you go.
So anyway, when I read that this morning, I just laughed because I just wrote that yesterday. So anyway, but yeah, I agree with Joe. It's it's those kind of strange games. I did want to say, since we've talked about it a lot, I saw Matt Murray live for the first time on Monday. He played against Detroit. Detroit, despite the fact they lost that game, and people were looking at it as a possible maybe a statement game, like maybe the yardstick game. We're going to finally measure up the Red Wings against, because they've had an easier schedule. There's no doubt about that. But it didn't turn out to be that kind of game. Like they lost that game. It was like a normal loss. Their goalie, Ville Husso, didn't play well. He gave up 3 horrible goals. But Matt Murray was really good in that game. And they couldn't finish. And the questions that were presented to the Red Wing players after that game was that all Matt Murray, or was that you guys not finishing? And, players in that position always say, well, it was both, But, it was more, I thought, Matt Murray. Like he played well. Like, he was always where he needed to be, which is part of great goaltending. Yeah. And, I was actually impressed, Mike. I thought, one of the problems, we always talk about injuries, but that's not my problem with Murray. It's been the fact that when he went to Ottawa, he wasn't any good. Like when he was healthy, I watched him and he didn't look like the same goalie. He did Monday night when I watched him. He looked like the Penguin guy that won the Cup.
Yeah.
He was just really, really efficient. He looked confident. Mm-hmm. And, we all know what kind of defense they're playing with now. That's why there's, the Red Wings had 40-some shots, so I was impressed. So I've got a little mea culpa here about Murray. We'll see what happens. It's a long season, but I was impressed with him.
Joe, I mean, we both saw Murray in his 2+, I think it was 2 years with the Senators. And we know the stuff off the ice with his dad passing away, and there was other things and getting sent to Belleville, but really, they traded for him coming off, from Pittsburgh, expecting him to be the savior, to fill the role of the goaltender that they hadn't had since, Hasek, maybe, I don't know, or Craig Anderson when they went to and they don't play good defense. He was facing 40 shots a night. I mean, anything like that calls into question a goaltender's ability to stay confident. I think that was the thing in Ottawa that led to his decline there. And in Toronto, I think he's getting there's a support structure there. Yeah,
that's definitely the case. I mean, we know Ottawa's kind of it's a weird place to be for sure, but and you have to have a particular ability to kind of let things roll off your back. Not that Ottawa's a tough media market per se, but it's just a tough.
It's a weird place. Like it's a small town kind of weirdness to Ottawa. Like every players. I talk to people up there. Kevin Lee, who writes for us up there, talks about all the time. Talk about it all the time. It's like all the players go to the 1 or 2 bars where all the fans do. It's got this weird. It's very much like a college-y type vibe to it. And it's not so
There's
much.
There's a lot of gossip, because I know someone who owns a newspaper.
All the gossip from way back when with Ray Emery and
that's every year. I know someone who owns a newspaper there, and they get a lot of gossip, but they are very critical of these fans, especially in the last 5 years with them being so bad too.
Well, they've been putting up billboards,
It's a transient political town,
right?
And,
right.
And rumors are rife. So
right, and a lot of people don't live in Ottawa. They were there to work, and they so it's very strange, and it's and it has like a Bruce Garriock who's been there forever. He's writing about it, which is but he's also a rumor guy, so he likes to do a lot of rumor things too. So it's like the whole market has a sort of
and I know that they reported on over the weekend that there are groups that are getting ready to submit bids for the Senators. And Kev, the thing that I look at with that is, because right now, like Russ and I, we talked about this, and I think we talked about it on the show. In any other situation, I think DJ Smith would be fired because they've been terrible. It's almost a third of the way through the season. What was the record, Russ? Their record on the road was like
35 and 110, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been pitiful. They made all these changes. They bring in DeBrincat, they bring in Talbot, they sign all these guys. Nothing has changed. They're still at the bottom of the Atlantic Division. And you would think that the first thing that they would do probably would be to fire the coach. But I think the ownership thing is sort of like the GM's in place, the coach is in place, and they're not going to change anything until they have a new group in there.
Yeah, well, he must like him, or I think he would do it. I mean, I think he wants to get in the playoffs, and that's the only thing. I mean, he can still make another trade, but he needs something to shake up the team. And historically, coaching changes work in the NHL. As well. There is like a honeymoon period. There is, because everyone's on their best behavior. Everybody plays better defensively when a new coach is there. Everybody's they look at that as a fresh opportunity, a clean slate. So everybody plays harder. So there'd be plenty of reasons to do it. But I don't know. I don't think they would not trade him simply because they're trying to sell the team, because I think, that's really not going to impact.
Well, I think he's free to make trades. I just think that right now, like, there's not going to be any kind of decision on Pierre Dorian until a new ownership group.
No, but why wouldn't he at least shake up it would reflect better on him if he got a coach in here and suddenly they were thing. So I don't know that that's the reason, but I could see why they want to do it. I mean, I don't understand it either. You look at their top six. And there's some talent, like we know what the holes are. We've talked about them at length, but there are a lot of teams with holes. So I really thought at the very least they should be improved, and they haven't shown that.
Well, Kev, we talked about it yesterday on the show. One of their assistants is Jack Capuano. I would roll the dice on Jack Capuano as an interim. I don't think the new owners would care, and I think they would at least have a shot.
Yeah, that seems like a fair. He's got experience, So that seems like a good compromise. Yeah. To be honest,
I would agree with that. I want you guys to do some rumors here because
that's what I was going to
ask. I never launched the rumor charts early. Usually I wait till I get like about 40 names or so and different things on people. But just talking to people around the league, there seems to be some feeling that we actually could see some trades prior to the trade freeze in December, and there's 14 names I'm already sort of tracking a lot of, some more than others, but I thought I would go through some of the fun things so far in the really early rumor chart right now, and of course these are like these are super early returns. So these, again, the way the rumor chart works is I talk to all these different people and and this is my own personal kind of prediction. Like, when I write on the website, I write a rumor that I just was told that was the rumor, and I try not to opinionate about it at all. I just put it out there. Sometimes I know it's ridiculous. Sometimes I know it couldn't possibly make sense in the cap world or whatever, or I wouldn't think it could, but I just write about it because I've heard about it, where the rumor chart is more my predictions. So of how I'm feeling based on all the conversations I have. So, it's open for wild interpretation, as is anything else. But I'm going to put up some names for you guys that are exclusive to the rumor chart today for you folks. So I'm going to start with JVR, who is a name who is obviously going to be moved. He is a free agent. He, has been hurt. But you can say that about JVR in his career. He has been hurt. That's something I think that it's like something that, he does come back. He does come back from being hurt. He does play well at times when he comes back. So, I thought was really interesting about somebody else was the Seattle concept with JVR. Seattle's doing so well right now. Why would you change anything? Why would you add anything? But he is an experienced power play type guy. And that is the thing that JVR brings you is power play. That's really what he does, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you want connections, Hackstall was the assistant coach of Toronto when Van Riemsdyk was there, so there is that connection.
He was head coach of the Flyers when Van Riemsdyk was there.
Right.
So.
Oh, that too.
So there's no.
Yeah, I can see JVR to Seattle. I mean, that makes sense. I can see New Jersey wanting him. I can't see the Flyers trading him there.
I don't know the Flyers care about that right now anymore, honestly.
Well,
I don't know. Remember the Mark Streit deal when Mark Streit got traded, and then all of a sudden he ended up on Pittsburgh, and everybody blew a gasket. They're going to have to do a similar thing with JVR, otherwise the fan base will blow a gasket.
I'll just say this: for any of the 5 options, for Philadelphia to get anything back, like we've talked about with an Erik Karlsson deal or any other deal, they're going to have to retain 50% of the $7 million salary for them to get anything of consequence.
And they will. They will. I mean, and the season's going to be, at least about 2/3 over. So it's going to, the salary comes down. It's going to be, it's money, but it's not going to be crazy money to bring in somebody who, when he's hot, is really good. Like he's one of those weird players that he actually is beyond streaky. I would say. I would say there are players who are streaky, and then there's JVR streaky, which I put in like Keith Primo streaky. Like the streakiness of like beyond streaky, that when they're really good, they can become the best player on the ice for a couple games, like for 2 games or 3 games in a row.
But there is a little bit of a rep back of him getting a lot of garbage time goals late in the season when there's no pressure. Like that's going to affect his value too, even if he is scoring.
Can we skip down one, because I want to ask Joe about the Canadians, because obviously the Sabres and the Leafs have played the Canadians, and you've got Dadonov on this list.
Dadonov's having a horrible season.
He's having a horrible season, but Joe, the Montreal Canadiens are like a garbage dump when it comes to players like Mike Hoffman, Sean Monahan, Jonathan Drouin, Dadonov. You've got all these forwards who are making $5 million, $5.5 million, $6 million. Good luck. I don't know who are taking these players, especially if they have term. It doesn't make any sense that anybody would be interested in them unless it's a 1-year rental type of situation, what Dadonov is.
Well, that's the thing. There's always going to be a GM out there that's like, our team can fix him. We can take care of this. He'll be better here because we're a better team. That's what's going to happen all the time. I mean, especially for guys like Dadonov, where they have that offensive upside. We've seen how good he could play in Florida. Even we know how good he can be. It's just get into some bad situations, and obviously the whole thing with Vegas last year was very strange. But there's always going to be a team out there that's challenging, that wants to make a run in the playoffs or the cup, and they're going to see a guy available and be like, you know what, we can get him, we can get him, we can get it better. So let's take a shot at it. Montreal won't get much for him. They won't get what they want for him, but they'll be able to unload him.
He was, he was the best player for the Golden Knights this year from the trade deadline on. Despite the fact that they traded him and they couldn't make the trade happen. He came back and was their best player. I mean, and when you saw him play, then you're like, geez, you're watching him play, and that's what he's got in his game. He's got he's like a mini Tarasenko-ish type player, but he doesn't have that in his game all the time. And obviously, it's about consistency. What are your thoughts on Dadonov, Kev?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to. I think he's like the not plan B or C, but maybe plan D or E. Like if you don't have, you can't get the players you want. Like he's not going to be a guy that everybody's going to line up to get, and you're just going to look and see who's available. But I do agree that if you're desperate to add secondary scoring. You might look at him, particularly, they're going to eat half the salary. What is the salary? Is it 5? What is it? 5. So 2.5 is an average NHL player. Yeah. So I could see that, but again, I don't think no GM is putting a list together and saying, okay, here's the top 5-6 guys we want to get, and Dadonov's on that list.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, They've got 3 guys who are rentals: Monahan, Drouin, Dadonov. All Monahan's making over 6. Again, to move those guys, they're probably going to have to retain something, and they can retain up to 3 players. The interesting thing, I talked to somebody yesterday, Russ, and they said that there's a good chance that the Canadians sent Slavkovsky to the World Junior to play for Slovakia. Yeah. And then he would go down to Laval because he's only got, I think, 3 goals in 17 games. He's clearly, not ready. And I don't know.
No, that would be the best bet. That would be the best move for them, for him. I like that move. I could definitely see it happening. I do have issues. Not issues. I want to talk about Capo Caco because I do think he could be traded for sure. Blackhawks make sense only if it's in a Kane trade. I don't think otherwise they're trading for Kakko on their own. Detroit makes sense in the sense that Kakko has been playing great defensively now, actually best of his life. So Gallant has had that influence on him, but his offense needs fixing. And he's got really good hands around the net, but he hasn't really been able to get there enough. And then his skating's improved, but it's probably still not as good as it could be. And so he needs some fixing that I don't think the Rangers have been able to do. And, Detroit does seem like a team that could maybe do that.
I would I think the Blackhawks would obviously be a Patrick Kane trade, and I think that some of the teams after that might be where the Blackhawks move Kakko after that. Like we could see him being moved along. Like you could see it maybe not a 3-part trade necessarily. I was told perhaps he gets traded there for a couple of weeks or a month, whatever, and then gets moved along. The Flyers thing I have on there is obviously because I know somebody at the Flyers who loves him. Like that if he was a Blackhawk, he's not. I'm not saying the Rangers are making a deal with the Flyers, but if he gets a Blackhawk, the Flyers will have interest in him. That's been told that flat out.
Like he would survive in the Tortorella system now because he's playing really well away from the puck and he is winning quarter battles. So from that regard, he's better than a lot of the other lesser talented guys than the Flyers have plugged in there for the moment.
Of course, there's historically famous scientist Gustav Nyquist, who is who's been playing forever, and actually is the same name as the famous scientist. So when you Google him, it's pretty funny. But he's been playing forever, and he's playing really well now, and he's playing well for Columbus. And Columbus is definitely a team that
Columbus has got a few like Gavrikov is going to be a name that you're going to be mentioning from now until March the 3rd because he's a right-hand shot defenseman making less than $3 million, and I'm sure rental. There's going to be a lot of teams looking to plug him in.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Nyquist. I mean, he's having an okay year. 10 points in 21 games, coming off a good year when he scored 53 points. There might be somebody interested, but I mean, again, he's making way too much money for what production you might get. He's making $5.5 million. So Yarmo is going to
take half that, of course.
Yarmo's going to have to retain half.
Think about him, Kevin, like on Edmonton,
I think you're underselling Edmonton on that. Ken Holland likes him.
Okay.
Again. If you're willing to keep half, now suddenly he's an average salaried player who plays well with good players.
Yeah.
Like he's a scorer. He can be. I know quite a lot about him, and I think if you're a contender, you'd like to have him much more so than Dadonov.
Here's Tony Soprano in the chat is mentioning this name in connection with Gurianov in Dallas, but Puljujarvi would be pretty interesting in a deal with Nyquist, especially, Yarmo, the Finnish connection. I mean, Puljujarvi definitely needs a change of scenery because he's not working in Edmonton. That might, it probably had to be something more involved there.
Could be a great irony there because, obviously they had a chance to take him. Everybody thought they were going to take him. Columbus, and they clearly didn't like him enough at the time it was drafted, right? So, no one knows more. Right. No one.
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
But Yarmo obviously had some insider Finnish information on this kid. We've seen what's happened in his career. Right? So,
I think Yarmo would feel pretty justified in not drafting him, considering how he's out so far. So,
absolutely.
I don't know. That makes it a little bit of a tough sell for me. You're right. Yeah. Time can change opinions, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
Now he's getting them like as a bargain and not a third overall pick where he has to really be a franchise player. He doesn't have to be a franchise player in Columbus. He just has to show up and do better. And I think there's a chance he could do that. I actually think it would be good for him to be in a market where the heat is off of him because he's had way too much. The heat's been turned up high on him ever since he's been in this league, and it's been too much for him.
And Russ, am I wrong in that World World Junior when Kapanen scored the game winner for Finland when Line A and Puljujarvi were playing on the same line?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I think you could get some real good continuity out of that. And I haven't given up on Puljujarvi. I just think it's like that market, like it's just bad for him
he's
now.
been talked about being traded or not whatever all the time for this entire time he's been there. You know,
well, in part it was his fault.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, he went to Finland. He didn't want to play for Edmonton. Then all of a sudden he takes the contract because he really has no other choice. I mean, he's unless they were willing to trade him, and we were talking about Puljujarvi trades for a year.
I mean, this is one of those situations where I think Ken Holland handled this perfectly. Like they could have gone so many different ways.
Yeah, but I also don't think there were many options for him. I think
no, but a lot of teams would have just cut bait.
Yeah, he will benefit by lowering of the expectations. Like he has skill, he can do stuff, but he's got that his draft status hanging around his neck in Edmonton. He just needs to get there, and I don't know that he's ever going to be an unbelievable player, but I think he'll contribute offensively when people stop thinking about him as a number 3 pick and just look at the skill he does bring.
Well, the funny thing was yesterday, Joe, we were talking about I'm by no means comparing Puljujarvi to this player in terms of the way he plays defense, but there were expectations about Joe Armia when he was in the Buffalo system. Then he got traded to Winnipeg, and he was allowed to develop to be that sort of third line tough big winger. And he's, gone to Montreal, and he's injured right now, but he's been pretty good as that guy who's going to score 15 goals, play decent defensively. Puljujarvi, I think, has more offensive gifts than that, but that could be the role that he sort of settles into, is that sort of middle forward and not be a top 6 that everybody expects to score 35 or 40 goals.
Yeah, that's the thing. Your expectations change when the scenery changes in those situations. I think for Puljujarvi, I think there would be a better understanding of what he can and can't do at this level. Certainly that happened with Armia. I mean, I'm not going to give the Sabres. That's like eons ago when they drafted him and then moved on from him. Like that's a different thing. But there is another guy. There is a guy in the Sabres currently who's kind of going through that sort of expectation transition, so to speak, and it's Tyson Jost. Like he's drafted 10th overall. They thought he was going to be a big scorer. Turns out he's not that. Turns out he might be a pretty decent defensive forward in the end. He's quick. He's got skill. He can finish, but he's not going to score 30 goals a season. He's not going to do any of that stuff. But once you get away from where you're at or where you started from, then a new set of eyes, a new set of coaches can change that. Can change everything that what they're supposed to be.
I did want to mention you had Gostisbehere on the chart there.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like Seattle would be an awfully good fit for him because they don't have anybody like Gostisbehere. They have money where they could extend them. And if they actually are hanging around a playoff spot, you got a guy like Gostisbehere that could put you right in the thick of it.
Yeah, but
I couldn't agree less on that one. Just from the history there with Hackstall.
Well, the history was good for a little while. It wasn't all bad.
But then it didn't end well at all.
Yeah, but that's 4 years ago.
Well, this is the thing, Kevin, and I'm looking at the landscape in terms of defensive rentals before the deadline, and I think the first name on almost everybody's list, if you're looking for a power play quarterback or somebody who can drive offense and carry the puck, is Klingberg, and I think Gostisbehere is sort of the plan B for all the teams that don't get Klingberg. So I don't think he's going to move quickly. I think he's going to move after Klingberg, and that could be closer to the deadline because we don't know when Anaheim is going to say we're ready to shop him.
Yeah, but Ron Francis spent time with Jim Rutherford, and Jim Rutherford's a big believer in you get your guy early,
sure,
and get him settled. So I wouldn't be shocked that there already might have been some discussions because I think that's a good fit there. Would be, and do you really want to give up the assets necessary to get Klingberg because the cost of Gostisbehere isn't going to be nearly what the cost of Klingberg is. So it's going to be interesting. You might be right. I mean, they may just wait it out, and that'll be the plan B. But if I was a general manager and you get your list down to like 3 people, and you'd be happy with Gostisbehere, I'd make the move now.
Yeah. It's a very polarizing pair in ways, Gostisbehere. When I talk to people about him, Where Klingberg, everybody thinks Klingberg is good. Everybody's like Klingberg's solid. He's going to do this, and everything. But then you get to Shane Gostisbehere, and people don't know what the real Shane Gostisbehere is, and they feel like because he had that just horrible stretch for a bit in Philly with Hackstall.
But Klingberg asked for a lot more money, Eck, and that's where I think Kevin and I are getting at is you can get your top power play. You can get your top power play guy here much cheaper. I mean, most of the Gostisbehere trouble was just not getting his shot on net. He always had a great shot. He just wasn't getting it on net. If he gets it on net for Seattle, that adds a lot more scoring to that team.
And Joe, I think I'm mischaracterizing Klingberg because I said defense, because he plays none. He's an offenseman. He's a Sergei Gonchar. Now, I think, some teams need that. Some teams need a puck carrier to drive offense. And, for those teams, he'll be valuable. But like everybody says Klingberg in connection to Toronto, that's the last type of defenseman that Toronto needs.
Yeah, unless you're pairing him up with somebody who's strong defensively, that's a very tough move to make. Or if you've got him, on your third pair, using him exclusively on 2 minutes on your power play, you can get around it. But you better have the depth to pull it off. That's the thing.
I mean, the Islanders would make sense for.
But you know where Gostisbehere really makes the most sense now when I think about it, based on what's happened today, is Pittsburgh. I could completely see his style fitting into that team. That's exactly.
Yeah, I don't think they have the assets though.
Well, it depends on what you think the value of Gostisbehere is in a trade.
It's enough that they're going to want a player or prospect in some sort of pick. I think that's what they're going to get.
Yeah, it depends on.
I'm not sure they are.
We know Ron.
They're not. If you're thinking they're going to get a first round pick,
no.
But you've got. This
like
is
a
kind
third round pick.
I think it's good. Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh will be able to give that up.
No, I think it'll be more than that. I think they're going to have to give up a
his best. When Gostisbehere is playing his best, he's playing a Letang game.
They're not going to take just a third for Gostisbehere. No way.
I think to me, I figure it'll be something like a second, a third, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, it could be that. Could be just picks. That's true.
And I just checked Pittsburgh. Last year they had very few picks. They have most of their picks going forward the next 3 years. So, but the question is, Hextall has wanted to start replenishing that organization, but their moves and what they've done over the last 12 months in terms of bringing everybody back would lead you to believe that they're going to try to take a shot to win it.
Yeah, Gostisbehere's a perfect age for him. He's not old. He's still
right. He's not old, so that's not going to hurt.
That's not
when he was in Philly. Hextall was the pro Gostisbehere. Hacksaw was the anti Gostisbehere.
I don't think he was anti. I don't. I think there was a time. Look, we know Hackstall puts a premium on defense. I get it, but there was also a time where Gostisbehere was playing halfway decent defense, and we all admitted to that. We all were like, "Hey."
No, it wasn't the issue. The issue with Hackstall in Philly with Gostisbehere was this crazy Hackstall thing that he had, where the players couldn't carry the puck over 2 lines. Remember this? This was but
I don't even know if he does that anymore.
Gostisbehere's a puck carrying defenseman, and when he took that away from him, Gostisbehere became a real. He just got so frustrated by it. It's
2 p.m., which means waivers, and I just have to show this to Joe because we talked about him at the beginning of the show. Cal Peterson has been placed by the LA Kings.
Hey, I made the joke yesterday that Buffalo should get him, but
no.
Yeah, no way.
I made a joke.
They want to improve goaltending, don't they?
I'm kidding.
But yeah, this is pointless because nobody's claiming him with a $5 million cap hit.
No, but I also think he's better than that too. So
I think
he'll go down. He'll get fixed. He'll be okay. I don't know if he'll be their number one.
He'll get fixed. And new to your goalies. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if there's one benefit to this, Kev, since he gets sent to the minors, he gets his full salary instead of the escrow being taken out. So he'll have extra money for presents for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. He probably doesn't see it that way though.
Of course not. It's up to me to put the positive spin on something,
Look, this is a guy who could play goal. I think he's just run into some probably bad habits. And you do have Jonathan Quick looking over your shoulder. It's not the easiest way to operate either. So in a way, this could be good for him in the long run.
Go back to our friend Scoop Cooper, who is recovering still, but after
So
But he's one of the Flyers, the oldest Flyers statesman we have in the press box. He was there since 1967 from the very beginning. And how when I watched that game last night, that's the game you'd walk out with Scoop Cooper and he would say, "Gentlemen, that was the kind of game that ends careers."
Right.
And,
He would say that. Scoop
he
would
would
say
say
that.
that about Peterson last night. So so Peterson going down to the minors is not exactly shocking today. It's definitely a message being sent there a little bit. Like there's no question because like you say, no one's going to grab him.
No, not at that salary.
No, it's interesting. Like if both the Toronto's goalies had not been healthy, they might have taken a shot at him. But
I don't think so. I don't.
Well,
think
if Murray was out for the season or something like that.
Yes. Well, the problem is Peterson's got 2 more years.
Yeah, for sure. All right, folks, that's the time we have for today. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Thank you, Joe, for joining us. Thank you, Kevin. As always, we will be back tomorrow.